is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, New York City Newsstand Studios. Joined as usual with John. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Got Joe Hazen rocking the panels. What's up?
Hey.
Yeah,
Sorry about that intro right there. Messed that one up.
Man, I'm just sitting there like an idiot, staring into space. You know, yeah, true to form. Got Nastasia the Hammer Lopez. What's up?
Hi.
Hi. We do not have Mr. Molecules. I don't know what he's doing. I'm hoping he's getting his teeth ripped out, so I don't have to hear about.
No.
Oh, son of a gun.
No.
So he's
at Doctor Coachella, I bet.
I wonder whether he saw the Weezer set after the wife of the Weezer guy shot at a cop and then got shot in the shoulder. Or no, she didn't shoot at a cop. It's the weirdest story of all time.
Yeah.
Someone's running through her backyard, right? So she comes out with a gun and then gets shot in the shoulder, random. And then they play Coachella like 3 days later.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. Hollywood, crazy place.
Yeah.
Crazy place. And in the upper left, Quinn, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Good. All right, so it's just us today. What do we got? It's a, No Tangent Tuesday, which of course means only tangents. If you happen to be listening on Patreon and want to call in some questions, call in live too, 917-410-1507. That's 917-410-1507. And tell them why they might want to be on the Patreon so they can call in, other than just calling in.
Yes. No. Whole bunch of perks. You get your questions answered first when you send them in, within the most timely manner that we can do it. Then discounts with a lot of the great people that we work with, like Matt over at Kitchen Arts and Letters, the great folks over at Glassvin, Nick over at Grove and Vine Olive Oil. I mean, yeah, just a lot of great things. So check it out, patreon.com/cooking issues.
Captain Oily, Mr. Bansuri and bass. He plays anything with a B in it. You think he can play a bassoon?
Probably.
See if you can play bassoon.
I used to play a bassoon.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Middle school.
Wow.
Taller than me.
What made you pick up the bassoon? Why the bassoon?
Tallest instrument in the class.
And that's what you did? You're like, give me the
I'm
tallest.
the shortest, and I always play the tallest.
Man. So my
Double reed.
Really? So how does that work?
It was a really interesting pucker on the mouth, but it was the two reeds basically vibrating. It was cool. I really enjoyed the instrument. I did really well with it. I played violin too, and didn't really enjoy that.
So what made you drop the bassoon? How come you're not a bassoonist?
Because I'm a bassoonist. I excelled very much in playing piano, classical music. I read classical, and I just took off with it.
Yeah?
Yep.
And so you're like, this bassoon is not for me.
Nah, I mean, I was very good with my yeah, good with the hands, played very fast.
So as a multi-instrumentalist, did that make you good at arranging?
No. Didn't write my own music. I played everything. I read everything, but I played everything that I enjoyed by ear. So, but arranging, no. I was never an arranger. I'm not a good sound designer.
No?
No, not really.
I know your skills, man.
I have good ears. I know what I like, but yeah.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, what other B instruments can we get Greasy to get on and play? Well, he'll learn it. You know what? Joe can give him lessons. We'll rent a bassoon. Can you still go to a place and just rent an instrument?
I'm sure. Somewhere over here on like 34th Street, and where all the instruments are, and all this. Well, I guess they're all gone, aren't they?
Yeah, they're dead.
They're all gone, right?
Yeah.
Rogue Music is gone.
I don't know, but that entire district is dead.
Yeah.
Everyone used to be like, "Oh, we're going in. We're gonna go. You know what I mean? And it's gone.
We did it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah. I mean, but I saw Rick Ocasek in that neighborhood once back when he was alive. Weird dude. Anyway, on to what we were talking about. So Quinn, what have you been doing with the Spinzall and the? So Quinn's been doing some experiments with Spinzall's our centrifuge, right? So one of the things we've always done is make quote unquote butter, but we've never actually tested it to see that it is butter. We put cream in the rotor, and a solid comes out. So your first thought is butter. But actually, we had some speculation before. Maybe it's not butter. Maybe it's, and Quinn thinks maybe the term of art. We got to talk this out. Anti-butter. What do you think, Quinn? Why don't you tell him the story here?
Yeah, anti-butter or hypercream. I like hyper cream.
I don't know. Hyper cream just sounds so bro-y. You know what I mean? Hyper cream.
Well,
and do you click on the cream and then get taken somewhere else?
Cream?
What?
Heaviest cream?
Yeah, I
Because
don't
there's
know.
already heavy cream
See,
and light cream.
I didn't mind.
Is heaviest.
I didn't mind it. So the whole point of it is it's the or inverse. It's the actual. So butter is 80% fat, roughly, right? 82, right? Percent fat, and the continuous phase is fat. So it is a solid fat with liquid water inclusions. It is a water in oil emulsion, right? Cream is a liquid, right, with probably solid fat globules suspended in it, but they're very small. It is an oil in liquid emulsion. So the stuff that comes out of the Spinzall, we think is still an oil in liquid, oil in water emulsion. In other words, it is like mayonnaise, just thick. So, but the benefit of that is that you can thin it out. And have you had any successful tests with this yet, Quinn, or no?
Again, just my initial test where I essentially recombined the butter product, the butter phase, let's call it for lack of
Or
a
the anti-butter
consistent
phase, the
term.
inverse butter phase. It's not. Don't think of it as butter
Okay,
because
it's still butter.
if you think of it
It's
as
still
butter,
fat.
yeah, but so is cheese. I mean, if you think of it as butter, then you're thinking of it. Here's the issue I have, and I just wrote a whole crap ton about this, about people who say milk clarified, right? If you use improper terminology, even if you understand the difference, you're mentally in the back of your mind pulling all sorts of other things into your mental conversation. And when other people who don't understand what you're saying hear a word that you use, right, they pull all of their thoughts and ideas into it, and it leads to not understanding what you're doing. Not just in cooking. This is in every field where you have improper terminology or poorly made terminology. Another one, milk washing. Crappy term I came up with. I should never have come up with that term. It was just one of the dumber coinages, right up there with Justino, as stupid idea for me to have come up with milk washing, because it's super confusing with fat washing, right? And then instead of using washing, because it confuses people then say they're milk clarifying. And the problem with saying you're milk clarifying is that then you think that using milk as a clarification technique is a neutral clarification technique, like using a centrifuge or even some gel techniques. The fact of the matter is, it's a huge flavor stripper. So I think using proper or thinking about your terminology isn't just a matter of, being correct or precise. It's a matter of making sure that your future decisions will be good based on the intuitions that come with the terminology you use. See what I'm saying? Anyway.
Okay, well, let's call it the solid phase for
Okay.
now, since it is solid.
I mean, all right.
Solid-ish.
The stuff that
in
comes
my
out of the
initial-
rotor, what's chunky. Yeah, all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
In my initial experiment, I recombined the solid phase with the original liquid phase that is separated from, and with relatively little, effort, it seemed to just recombined back into cream.
Yeah.
So yesterday I tested a different liquid that had less success, but I think I chose the wrong liquid to try first.
Well, why are you being so coy? Just tell them what you were doing so they know from that to start. What was the liquid?
I was trying a dark fermented tea.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's what I had around. I was drinking the tea all day, and I'm like, well, at least also I wanted something with a color so that I could see if it was incorporating homogeneously.
You don't own food. You don't own food coloring.
Well, actually, I might not actually.
But my point is that I believe before you did it, I was like, I don't know, tea's got a lot of polyphenols. Gonna bind with the casein, might seize it up. I don't know. Somebody might have said that. Who was it? Oh yeah, me. Anyway, so
I'm gonna run another experiment today with a more chemically neutral liquid. Although again, it was interesting. The solid phase I made yesterday did appear more yellow than the one I made on Sunday.
I mean, prior
that
to
was also
seizing it.
curious. Yes.
Yeah, because one of the reasons that originally we thought maybe, then you said you spun it. Was it warmer, colder?
It should have been similar temperature, right out of the fridge.
Yeah.
And then same time.
Yeah, because usually the unit is not strong enough to break emulsions. So, like that. So, same brand of cream, same age.
Yeah, I mean, it was just what was left in the previous, jug of cream.
Both no salt.
Correct.
Interesting. And one was.
But again, I've got a fresh container of cream, so I'm going to do a double batch today. I might do just like 2 minutes less of spinning and see if that changes the yield a little.
Yeah, so our next step is to try to figure out what the fat content of this solid is, and write in, see what you guys think the good term for it is. You've heard, Quinn's ideas, my lack of ideas. He thinks it, originally what I like, the problem with anti-butter is it still has the word butter in it, but it is anti, right? So that helps, because he's like, it's the positron equivalent of like an electron, in that it's the exact opposite.
Because positrons and electrons do share a lot of other properties besides their charge, which is why I think it works as an analogy, because our substance and butter do also have very similar properties in certain regards.
Yes, but they don't annihilate each other and produce energy, though. That's the one thing they don't do.
We
is
haven't
annihilate.
tested it yet.
That's true. I've never mixed. I've never mixed regular butter with this product. But so, what we're interested.
You know, it's a shame.
What?
There's already a brand of product called "I Can't Believe It's Not Butter."
What do you mean? Obviously, how do you not? This isn't like always in the back of your head somewhere. And when you do it, you think of I think of Fabio. I can't believe it's not butter. Spray, and then you got to think of him getting hit in the face with a bird on the roller coaster. This is peak internet. Watching Fabio get hit in the face with a bird, and he doesn't have a good sense of humor about it. You know who Fabio is, right, Quinn?
Yeah. No, I'm saying it's a shame that already exists. Because wouldn't that be a great name for what we're making? I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, you know what my friend always called it? I can't believe I bought this crap. Only he used a slightly different term. Oh, man. Like, I remember an era. So, okay. So my grandparents, both sides actually, bought margarine because they were Depression-era people. So they grew up like, margarine because it's cheap. You know what I mean? And then my parents' generation were told to eat margarine because it was, quote unquote, healthy for them. And then only the current generation grew up knowing that margarine not only tastes bad, but is also a poison, right? And then they finally figured out how to make it, I guess, without not that I don't really know what the effects of trans fat are, but, I've read this studies, but, I don't believe hardly anything that anyone tells me ever. Sky's blue. Okay, that I'm good with. But so now I saw another thing that now people are going back on butter, saying that whatever, just don't pay attention. Eat what you like until your doctor has a specific reason why your body in particular, shouldn't have X, Y, or Z. That's when you got to start thinking about things, right? You know what we did? We tested you and we figured out that you in particular get hypertensive when you have extra salt. Not just, you as a statistical number in space, but you an actual individual. Oh, okay. Then you change your habits. Anyway, so.
Also, they did do that test with my dad.
They did?
They did do the
son of a gun. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But can he have all the salt he wants if he takes the proper medication? And then that seems like a good choice. Like, I don't know what the side effects are, but if the side effect of not having the medication is I have to reduce my salt intake, I take the meds 100% of the time, unless it's my nose falls off. Then, if my nose falls off but I can still smell, maybe I still keep the salt. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. So, is there a medicine that can fix it or no?
I don't know. Again, he's already on other medications. I don't know if there's like interactions. So I think he's giving the low salt a try at least.
Whatever. Hey,
So we'll
Stas, what would you give up? Would you take the medicine no matter what the side effects were, or would you try to cut back on the salt?
Probably the medicine.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, you take the medicine. Like the side effects, like I say, would have to be severe. You know what I mean? Like, because even if you didn't worry about salt, just the idea of having to worry when you sit down at the table, having table be stress instead of joy, is not worth it to me. You know what I mean? Table as stressor instead of table as source of joy. Nightmare. You know what tastes bad? Salt substitutes. I know we have some listeners, Patreon members who can't have salt for various reasons. There's got to be someday. I hope that we get all. I am hoping for all the technology in the world. I'm going to get so crispy when we can just go to the pharmacy and crisp ourselves up and get crispy. Think of all the stuff we're going to be able to do. Not just my flashlight in the middle of the forehead, which is what I want. True. So my vision's bad. So. Everyone's like, why don't you just crispy your eyes so you can see in the dark again? I'm like, oh, that's so much smarter than a flashlight in the center of my head. You know what I mean? Whatever. Someone.
Well, I think I'm going to cut in line for CRISPR first. I think I get first dibs.
Yeah, for sure. Are they working on stuff that could crispy? They could help you out, crispy?
I mean, I'm sure someone somewhere is doing, if not exactly my condition, I'm sure they're doing something similar.
Yeah. So you're saying we might not get super crispy, but you'll settle for just a little bit of a nice pellicle on the outside of the crispness, just little help.
Because it is just 2 genes. So.
Well, listen, if anyone here is a crispy scientist, we're here for you. We have we're all right, Quinn. You're saying you want to be first in line to the crisp parade. Yeah.
Oh yeah, crispy up.
All right. So, anyone cooking? What?
Actually, speaking of pellicle, I do have other cooking.
All right. What do you got?
We broke down a water buffalo chuck roast that we dry aged for 70 days, and then we ground it into burgers. It was quite good.
So, is there enough fat to protect the outside, or did you have to trim a boatload of meat off the outside of it?
We had to trim some, but it wasn't crazy.
Uh-huh. And you know what's interesting about those kind of things is that you can really only measure drip or water loss off of the whole thing. It's very hard for people at home to figure out how much they've lost out of the meat versus how much they've lost out of the outside part. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a different, because no one has as far as I know, or I haven't researched it, maybe it is easy to just jam a probe in a soil moisture sensor and just be boop, boop, because all of the meats, even when they're quote unquote dry, are still relatively high in moisture, right? So I don't know how what's it called? How much resolution you get on those meters at the upper end of the scale. Because it would be interesting to know, yeah. Did you measure the weight loss over the time on the whole piece or no?
No, actually, we forgot to check beforehand. Because, again, we weren't going for a particular, percentage loss, like with charcuterie.
Right, but I'm just curious to know what the loss is,
We had planned to unwrap it a lot earlier, but just life happened. But it was still good.
Yeah. Oh, but it was totally wrapped so it was wrapped and in the fridge, or where was it?
Yeah, it was in the fridge. Again, I use it's like I forget what the material is. It's some sort of plant-based gel membrane.
Mm-hmm.
It's dry, but you wrap up your piece of protein, and then it just sort of regulates the moisture loss. So it slows down in a regular fridge.
So like a collagen casing almost.
Yeah.
But plant. Because God forbid you have meat against your meat. God forbid that an animal is killed to wrap your giant hunk of water buffalo.
Well, again, I think it just has the right properties in terms of regulating the moisture loss.
My favorite age, I think the age is just right, ground meat is Edwards.
Very true.
Yeah.
Edwards aged meats.
But we're not all so lucky.
What do you mean? If they mail it, they can't mail it to you because of Canada?
I mean, I would assume not.
Because I don't know. I mean, have you checked?
I guess I could check.
Yeah. The only issue is you have to order. Only issue with Edwards is you have to order a lot of it, because if you don't order a lot of it, the shipping will kill you, because it's shipped in a, it's an expensive way to have to ship meat. You know what I mean? Shipping meat is not cheap. You know what I mean? So I think you win more if you get more of it. You know what I mean? But his ground beef.
Far. I try not to order fresh products from that far away.
That far away? He's in California.
I thought he was in the East Coast still.
No. Northern California even.
Yeah, literally, he could put it on a paper airplane and throw it up to you. Well, not really. He'd have to go to Oregon and Washington. But does anyone even count those states? Just kidding. You know what I mean? That's northern California. Just kidding. Just messing with you folks. Yeah. Anyway, I try not to order from far away. You know this, Quinn? Have you actually looked at the numbers on anything that goes in a truck? Has completely wiped out any sort of offset you might have. The cheapest way is to ship something on a boat. I mean, carbon cheapest. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they're so efficient and they're so huge. You know what I mean? That like shipping something. In other words, distance isn't the only metric of how much you're damaging the earth. If you just want to have stuff close to you because you feel like that's an interesting problem for you to have, kudos. You know what I mean? But like, it would be so hard to actually judge things based on how much of a dent you're putting into the environment based on their shipping without a lot of knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, knowledge I don't have anyway. Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe you sit around studying this stuff all the time. I don't know.
It's interesting. It is still interesting to work with local water buffalo. I mean, that's just fun for the whole family, regardless.
Do they make water buffalo cheese up there?
Yeah, I think one brand makes ricotta and mozzarella.
Yeah, of course they do.
From the water buffalo. But I can't get the milk, which sucks.
You can get the milk or you can't?
No, I can't.
You've tried and they said no crap on you?
No, they turn all of it into stuff, like yogurt as well.
Yes, okay, but if they turn all of it into stuff, then if you email them and be like, I will pay whatever, give me like 2 quarts of it to F about with. You're saying they wouldn't? You're saying there's such a big operation that there's not a human who could be like, okay. You know what I'm saying?
I think we tried that. I have to go back and check.
Yeah.
I think my dad's tried that as well.
Yeah. It all depends on who you get on the phone. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you get really cool people on the phone. Sometimes it might be an insurance thing. They might not be licensed to sell you,
Yeah, that's the other thing.
But, if it's not an insurance thing, there's what's the skin off their nose? Like the one that makes me angry is I came so close to getting the 2 billion-year-old water from the Timmins mine in northern Ontario. It's a huge, it's this, I think, zinc mine, and it's like a couple kilometers deep. They tapped into a reservoir of water that hasn't been evaporated and re-rained, hasn't gone through the water cycle in over 2 billion years. I'm like, you can get me some. You know what I mean? And they're like, it tastes bad. I'm like, just get it. Just get it. You know what I mean? And they're like, and this guy was like, I have some on my counter. I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, just give me some. And then like, it's privately owned. And I think that like their boss was like, nah. And then he moved his job. So I never got it. I wanted to make the old fashioned with like a little bit of like this in as like a bittering agent. Cause it's got like it's so heavily mineralized because it's been chilling underground for 2 billion years that, and then like it just never happened, but it's literally just leaking and getting wasted. It's literally just like they're mining, someone hit it with a stick, Moses style, water comes out of the rock and it's just leaking. You know what I mean? It's just a waste. You know what I mean? Hate it. Hate.
Yeah.
Hate. So it's just a question of who you get on the phone, man. Get yourself some water buffalo milk. Hey, Stas, you want to hear something you're going to enjoy?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm riding to the show this morning, right? And this truck is... You know how trucks can be a pain in the butt? Like they can't decide what side of the street they're going to be on, but either side they're going to tear my human form into shreds on my bike, right? So I go around them, but then I have to stop real short. I stand up like I'm going to stop. I go back down onto the seat. The seat catches my pants just wrong, rips the crotch straight out of them. I am basically wearing chaps at this point. around the city, and I have no extra pair of pants. So I'm just walking around, breeze coming into my, into my legs. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Crap on all these people. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's like I'm akin to the remember the cowboy, the naked cowboy who would wear underwear? Yeah. I'm like that, but not buff. But walking around, all my stuff on display. What little there is. So I thought you'd appreciate that, Stas, because you like whenever I have an embarrassing situation happen in public. That's your
So
favorite.
you're like that. You're like that right now.
Yeah. Big old hole. I could. Yeah. Big old hole. Like big old hole. Big old hole. Yeah. Like, and in like the weirdest, like literally, like imagine you're coming back down on the bike and the point of the bike seat grabs your pants and it's like, nope, and just like, and it just goes in at the seam and just goes shrimp and just like, rips it open. That's how I am right now. I mean, I can still button them, but it's like I say, it's like chaps. Yeah. Remember, I know everyone's always said this, but they're just chaps. You do not need to say that they are assless. Just chaps is all that's required. You know what I mean? Show me the pair of chaps with a butt, and then you have your point. Well, I guess mine still have a butt. There's crotch. These are more crotchless pants. These are more like if Frederick of Hollywood made pants for me, it would be this. You know what I mean? Crotchless pants. Oh, hey, we're still selling the Spins All 2.0 on sale, right? Got to do that. Sell it. How much?
Yep, it's still on sale for $850 USD.
Yeah, and I think we're going to keep it on sale until the ones are off the water. Right now, we've got, centrifuges on the water. Fire in their eyes. Bam, bam, bam. We're going to see when those things get in. You know what I mean? Anywho, it's a good time to buy a centrifuge, especially if this trick with the butter, because what Quinn wants to do, and the issue is if we can make it not seize, right, is imagine Quinn's goal is to make like a beurre monte that's refrigerator stable. Like texture of beurre monte with those flavors in it, but it's just a liquid that you could just keep in your fridge and just you could do it cold, you could do it. I don't know if it's going to work or if it's going to seize up.
I'm also going to test basically a hollandaise that you assemble cold, store it in the fridge, and then just drop it in a bath and see if it'll work.
Yeah, why wouldn't it work? Why wouldn't that work?
No, exactly. I'm saying, like...
I mean, like, people have been... I know, no one... I mean, everyone does from cold hollandaise now. I think nobody does the old school...
Yeah, but then don't you have to blend it afterward?
No.
To re-emulsify everything?
You just with a whisk. Oh, yeah. You don't need to, like, do anything crazy. Right? I don't do anything crazy with it. Hollandaise is delicious.
My favorite.
It's so good.
So good.
Hollandaise, it's just a delicious, delicious, delicious sauce.
Eggs Benedict is my last meal.
Really?
It's like a tub of hollandaise.
Okay, so what is your ham of choice on a Benedict?
Oh. I'll admit I hadn't really thought that one through.
Are you cheap or expensive? Taylor pork roll? Taylor pork roll, good.
Probably not Taylor pork roll, just, I don't know, regular, like, quote-unquote Canadian bacon that we have.
No, don't. No. No. First of all, if it's going to be Canadian bacon, like send away to Toronto and get real pea meal bacon, because that stuff's actually good.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Here's it.
You know what's good?
What?
Benedict with mortadella. That's pretty good.
I bet that'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that'd be good.
Yeah.
Needs slightly more salt, but good.
You can find it, yeah.
Get this. So, for those of you who are eating for a small group of people, like 1, 2, right? And you want to get yourself a Taylor pork roll. If you don't know what a Taylor pork roll is, why haven't you lived in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut major metropolitan area ever? But whatever. It's like a. I don't know, describe this shape, John or Joe. Describe this shape. Taylor pork roll shape.
Like a cylinder-ish.
Yeah, but it's like imagine if a liverwurst got big.
Yeah.
It's like a torpedo, right?
No, but
it's a cylinder and the edges are rounded, right?
Yeah, but it's more like a. Yeah, it's like it's pretty big around.
Like a big long pill.
And they weigh like I think 2.5, 3 pounds or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's a lot, right? Considering that you're only eating a couple slices of it. So what you should do is you should pre-slice it, separate it with parchment, put it in a Ziploc, and freeze it. And the parchment will make it so that it's super easy. So that's what I've been doing because I'm the only person in my house right now that eats it because Dax isn't away. And so, like, anytime I'm cooking a breakfast, I'm like, I'm just going to get 2 slices of Taylor pork roll. And it lasts for infinity because it's in the freezer. The parchment, they pop right out. They're so thin, they thaw instantly, almost like the old Steakums used to. They thaw instantly in the pan. So I don't pre-Pac-Man them. I Pac-Man them after they start to render out a little bit. I could pre-Pac-Man them. You have to Pac-Man a Taylor pork roll. Otherwise, if you don't make that slice into the center, they cup up like a pepperoni, and then the underside's not touching the pan. And then when you flip it, then only the 1 point touches. So you're just doubly dumb. You're just the worst person in the world 2 times in 5 minutes. So if you just Pac-Man it, if you just make that slice into the middle, then it lays flat. I've already talked about this on the air, but did any of you guys, when you were kids, make what's called sea sausages?
No.
Oh my God, really? So if anyone has kids, I loved this. Of course, this was the 70s, right? You take hot dogs. I think they must have been skinned, right? It was the 70s. I don't know. And you cut them long ways in half. And then when you cook them, they bend into C's because this outside shrinks and the inside doesn't. So they turn into like C shapes. And so we used to call them sea sausages. I ate the heck out of those.
Well, I've seen a similar concept where you basically turn hot dog pieces into little octopuses.
Yeah. Like that. But I guess, like, who else? Some people do that. Some people score their hot dogs and do all... Like, Toronto does some weird crap with their hot dogs, right, when they cook them? Weirdos.
I can't think of something in particular.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a good trick. Kids, I used to love it. We put all kind of spices on the hot dog when you were going to make... Because hot dogs, you don't spice. But sea sausages, you can spice. Because spice sticks to the cut side. You with me?
Yeah.
And then you can also, like, before they curl, you can get that cut side down and you can get some crispiness on that, and they put them around. But you can even just make them in a toaster. They'll curl up in a toaster. I like anything that does that. You know what the old trick they used to teach for squid? When you're stuffing squid, turn the squid inside out, and then they close it up on themselves better when you stuff them. So you take the area you're going to stuff, pop it inside out. Those weird fins go on the inside now, and it makes like a nice trim-free squid machine. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm here for you, man. Although, I cannot cook squid in my house less than it's fried. Because Booker will brook no other form other than calamari. You know what I mean? Other than fried calamari.
And it is delicious.
It is delicious, but it just smells so... The leftovers just smell horrible. Like squid trimmings, like, is it... Our house perpetually smells like some form of squid, either like that iodine note that squid ink has, and it like smears everywhere, or like, you know, squid drippings, or salmon drippings, or salmon skin drippings, or tuna filth. It's just one big like fish place. It's like freaking Fulton nuts. Drives me crazy. All right, Stas, you have any good food this last week or no?
No.
No. Any interesting like going home and mixing your chicken and rice? I still haven't tried this rice. They don't have it at my local Trader Joe's. I got to get a brand name.
You have to go to Whole Foods.
All right, I will try. Elliot writes, I've heard people mention damaged starch as a consideration for milling flour. At times, I get the impression that milling finer makes more of it and that it absorbs more water. Both of those are true. There's a direct relationship between in a stone or in a disc in a nutrition mill as opposed to a roller mill. There is a direct relation between for a given wheat, between how finely you mill, how hot it gets, and how much damaged starch there is. Especially on a single pass milling situation. I don't know what to do with that information. If I want to make a cool, tasty sourdough with freshly milled hard red winter wheat, how do I decide how fine to grind and how does it interact with how fine to sift if I'm sifting? Well, I'm trying to figure out the second part of that. More info in a couple of months. might get access to some really cool equipment that lets me actually measure all of these things out of home mills. And I have an invite, which I need to get back to them on, to go up and measure it, in which case I can tell you. But I have to wait until I'm done with my current round of bull crap before I can get to it. But basically, the harder a wheat is, the finer you can grind it before it starts smearing. So if you take a soft wheat, so for instance, a wheat that I'd really liked in the past was Rouge de Bordeaux. It's a French wheat, kind of like a nice French wheat, got a great flavor. And I had been milling it for a while, but it was out of stock. Like you couldn't get it for like over a year. You couldn't buy it. And so when it came back in stock, I bought 40 pounds of it, right? And so 40 pounds of it comes to my house. Now I have 40 pounds of Rouge de Bordeaux. And this stuff doesn't mill anything like the Rouge de Bordeaux I had before. It still has a nice flavor, but this batch is a lot softer. It didn't have a protein number on it, and it's a lot softer. And what that means is that when I really choke down on my mill, which is what I normally do for when I'm grinding for bread, because I choke down on the mill when I'm trying to do that, right? Is it smears and glazes over the stone, so it dies, and then you have to take the whole thing apart. You have to grind rice through it to get your stones clean again. And so I haven't been able to make as good a Rouge de Bordeaux bread with this stuff. Made great pancakes, but it hasn't made as good a Rouge de Bordeaux bread as I had before. So a lot depends on your wheat. If you have a hard enough wheat, you can then choke down and get like a decent amount of starch damage, right? But it's very hard to know when you sift, because when you sift something that's been ground differently, it looks a lot different. If you take a microscope or even your iPhone, if you have an iPhone, I mean, I'm sure Google phones do it as well, but you do the macro mode and you get close, you can get a pretty decent picture of what the brand looks like post-sift, and they look very different. So it's very hard to know. But typically in a soft wheat, the starch granules aren't bound together as hard. There's not enough protein holding those starch granules together. So when they break apart, they tend not to get damaged. So no matter how finely you grind a softer wheat, you'll have less starch damage than you will in a hard wheat, where just the act of cracking it apart is going to break some of the starch granules. And broken starch absorbs something like 3 or 4 times its weight in water, as opposed to regular starch, which if you take cornstarch and you make a 1-to-1 mixture of water and cornstarch, it's a liquid. You know what I mean? Because that starch is absorbing almost nothing. You know what I'm saying? Whereas a damaged starch can absorb tremendous amounts of water. So it really, really, really increases the amount of absorption that you have. However, when you're baking, if you have amylase activity, like let's say you add malt, then it can die out in the oven, because the amylase, as it heats up, it's a fairly high temperature enzyme, will eat that damaged starch. You'll lose your water holding capacity before you set the protein in the dough, the protein structure in the dough, and boom, you collapse out. So damaged starch is one of those things where, like, you want some of it, but you don't necessarily want too much of it. Now, if it's a flatbread, then go for it. You know what I mean? Because then if like a pita, well, I don't know about pita. I haven't studied it actually. But like a tortilla, or one of these kinds of things, or chapati, like damaged starch is your friend, because it's increasing the amount of liquid you can dump into the dough and still not have it be sticky. And you want that because you want it to puff. So you want a very high hydration dough that's relatively easy to handle. And so damaged starch is your friend. And that's why when they're measuring the flour that's coming out of the atta, the atta flour, they're coming out of the what's the word? CH something. The grinder they use to make the Indian atta flour. It's very, very hot, and the starch is very damaged. And so, because they're looking for maximum water hydration for that dough. Anyway, hope that helps. And did we decide that this person is Butts or Buttes?
I think it's Butts.
Or Butes? Or Buttus?
It's not Buttus.
Buttus. Is there an easy way to convert the absolutely diabolically stupid system of imperial measurements from cups, ounces, teaspoons, tablespoons, or 3/4 of a teaspoon directly into grams or milliliters? No. There's not. So, no. Get this. Guess how stupid this is. So let's do this as a group project. So, Nastasia, we're never going to build that scale, right?
Oh, I don't know, Dave. I mean, don't give away your shit. because it's not working out right now. God.
I thought we weren't okay. All right. Anyway, point is no. No, you can't because well, look, you can blame all of this on a group of very well-meaning people in like the late 1800s, early 1900s who were trying to quote unquote make cooking scientific. And they did it with these units in the United States. And then we've been stuck with them kind of ever since, like the Fannie Merritt Farmers of the world, the Boston cooking schools of the universe, like all of those recipes. So you went from a system of no measurements at all to something much more scientific, but using implements that you might have around the house. And it's just a nightmare. So like, for instance, whenever I see a recipe and it's like 2 cups of slivered almonds, I'm like, oh, the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? Am I measuring the nuts and then slivering them? Like, what the hell? Like powdered sugar, do I pack it? Do I not pack it? Brown sugar, everyone knows you got to pack brown sugar, right? And so in general, what I'll do is I keep my own list of kind of my standard, like what those things are. So like flour is widely variant. So if you ask some person what a cup of flour is, they'll say it's 109 grams. Other people say it's 120 grams. It really depends. It's a very big range, right? I think my standard is, I forget, like 112 or something. It really also depends on the kind of flour you're using. Powdered sugar, ditto, weird. You know what I mean? So no, there's not an easy way, because if things had a uniform density, then you could just look up a number. But the fact of the matter is that they don't have a uniform density most of the time. Certain things, sugar even, granulated sugar, you can like quote unquote tamp it down. If you take if you take sugar and then put it into a cup, strike it off, then cover the cup and tap on it, you'll settle it about 10%. You know what I mean? So even something as you would think fully densified as granulated sugar is not. So it's just a nightmare. Liquid measurement, relatively easy, right? Relatively easy, liquid measurement. So no. I know that 1 cup of water...
The real trick is just whatever especially for baking, again, because the flour and the sugars are so variable, just... pray and hope somebody in the UK developed an equivalent recipe to what you're looking for.
Yeah, but then you have to trust someone from the UK. That's even worse. I'm just kidding, UK. I always pray for both units, and in my recipes I'll always put both units. There are some things. So remember when I think it was Sola who was here. And she was saying that, in her book, she said, I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to get into a whole crap storm, that like she actually prefers things like teaspoons, tablespoons for things like, because you can do a half of a teaspoon, whereas a lot of people's scales aren't accurate enough to weigh, let's say, a half a teaspoon of baking powder. And like, I kind of get it. But on the other hand, just give both. Because the reason to give real measurements, and like sometimes people give me crap on some of my measurements I gave. They're like, you gave out to the decimal. I'm like, well, what if someone multiplies the recipe by 10? I want the recipe to work, right? I would rather give you a number that's unachievable in accuracy for you, so that then when you multiply it by 1 billion, you're not increasing your error by 1 billion. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you know what the real number is, give the real number and let someone be inaccurate with it. That's my take. And then if you want to give somebody a teaspoon measure, then give it to them. Now, like Madame or Monsieur Le Bout, we're about to get into something that I do disagree with you on. Also, can somebody please explain whatever the loving heck a pinch equates to? Whose pinch are we talking about? Was there a guy 3,000 years ago called Jimmy the Pinch? It would be amazing if 3,000 years ago... I wonder how you say Jimmy the Pinch in Latin. Does anyone here know any Latin? Jimmy the Pinch.
No.
Jimmy the Pinch. Did he create this pinch, and how much is a pinch? All right, listen, here's what a pinch is. It is, I don't want to write down the amount that I'm adding. That's what a pinch is. A pinch is add some, I can't do the math, shut up about it. Or it needs a little bit, but really depends on all of the other crap that you've done, and I don't really know your taste or your cooking, and so just add a pinch. Or it's like unmeasurable, but I want it to be there. That's what it is, right? So as someone who has to write recipes for people, I will use this. So, for instance, I'll be like, add 4 drops of 20% saline solution or a pinch of salt. Because I'm like, at that point, I don't care. If you're not measuring, right, then, like, what does it matter? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. What do you think, John?
Yeah, no. It sounds... Yeah, pinch, I don't know.
Also, I think...
For me, it's like a 3-fingered thing, but that's in salt. I don't know, yeah, but it's...
Yeah, but the point is it's a way for me to just be like, ugh.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How much? Well, my other favorite unit, some. my most favorite unit, as anyone who has ever actually cooked with me knows, is the correct amount. How much should I add? The correct amount. You know what I mean?
Yep. Duh.
Yeah, duh. The amount that makes it taste good, moron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the amount you should add. Because some stuff's just unknowable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say there's like, especially outside of baking or certain mixtures that you can't, like, just taste easily. You know, I think there's some ingredients, the ratio of them is more important, and then minor ingredients are just less important to be precise about if they are just for flavor and not for some sort of, like, structure.
Yeah. Minor Ingredients would be a great punk band, wouldn't it? Minor Ingredients. It's like Minor Threat, but like more of a cooking theme. Can you imagine how bad an only cooking themed punk band would be? Like an old school or like a hardcore band?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, not good.
Even Jack wouldn't go to that show. I can talk about him like a dog because he's now at Dr. Coachella's as far as we know. You see, what if... Stas, what if the Spin Doctors got back together and he was actually seeing the Spin Doctors at Coachella and could then actually say he was at the Doctors?
Yeah, that's good. Why do you call it Coachella?
Well, I've never been there. I don't know. Isn't it next to Palm Springs?
Yeah, but that's not the point.
I don't know. What am I supposed to call it? Coachella?
Yeah.
Isn't there an A in it?
Yes, but why are you, that's not the way.
Well, it's like Coach. It's not a Coach.
Coach, yeah.
You don't buy Coach bags and Coach cheese? Yeah, I guess. Coach is Coach. So you think it's, I don't know, it just looks like Coachella. If it was going to be an Italian word, how would you pronounce it, Quinn?
Coachella. Because CH is a hard C
So
sometimes.
should I go with that?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Jack is at the Coachella. Right? I'll say it like that. Anyway, at the Doctors, seeing the Spin Doctors. The Spin Doctors, by the way, people won't believe this, but if you even remember who the Spin Doctors were, when I was in high school, they were playing wasn't cool enough to go, but all the cool kids would go into the city to like a place like the Wetlands, which was like a very well-known club here in New York. And they'd be like, oh, I'm going to see the Spin Doctors. And they were actually cool. Think about this. The Spin Doctors this is what happens when you get overplayed. The Spin Doctors were like legit cool, right? And then like, you know, they just got saturated on the airwaves, and then all of a sudden no one who had the cred before would listen to them, and all of their new people didn't stick with them long enough. So they got spun out. Sad. You know what I mean?
Spun out.
Spun out. But, you know, Little Miss, how many billion times people my age hear that song on the radio? Like infinity. Saturated it. How many years does it take when you're saturated with a song before you can hear it again? Like, have you guys ever had any songs that, like, were ruined for you and then you thankfully didn't hear it for, like a decade, and when it came back on, you're like, okay. Or are you still like, whoop?
I've saturated myself listening to songs, and then took like 3 or 4 years to get back to them.
Like if you throw up on gin. And then it takes you a while to come back to gin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That takes a while.
Everyone's like, you know what I can never get back to? Southern Comfort. I had a bad Southern Comfort experience when I was young.
Dude, for me, it's Jose Cuervo tequila.
Can't do it?
Horrible experience.
You don't like a lot of tequila things as a result of that one time with your boy Jose? Treated you so wrong?
Chef Boyardee, yeah. It's terrible.
You know Chef Boyardee was a real dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen videos. Looks awesome.
Really?
Yeah. They're out there.
I tell you, my crazy uncle Ralph, pit boss Reno, I once asked him a cooking question because he had an opinion about food. So I asked him a cooking question. What am I, Chef Boyardee? That's what he said to me. I'm like, no, Uncle Ralph, you are not Chef Boyardee. But that was the pinnacle of cooking to Uncle Ralph was Chef Boyardee. Anyway. Jimmy the Pinch. All right, Catherine writes in, I've been baking focaccia at work, but have had issues with it rising like a loaf of bread rather than staying flat and bubbly the way a focaccia usually does. I'm using fresh milled Glen wheat sifted at 90% extraction at about 14% hydration, 14% protein with about 80% hydration using 8% olive oil and 20% of a starter. No, it's good info. I like the wheat for its flavor. But its gluten may be contributing to the structure that gives it that rise. I also stretch and fold throughout a 4-hour bulk before an overnight cold proof, which may be adding too much structure. I want it to rise and inflate in the oven, just don't want it to dome the way it does. Well, unfortunately, Catherine, I don't bake a lot of focaccia, so I'm not a super focaccia expert. Now, if you say it's bready, not just the dome situation, but a lot of stuff. I mean, if you must know this because you're doing a lot of it, but these high extraction flours tend to have more bread-like in the sense of like uniform crumb structure. It's more difficult because remember, even at your protein, and I looked up Glen. It's a hard red. Oh my God, was it hard red spring? I think it's a spring. So the question is really like gluten versus protein. But here, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about it. I got to find someone who works more in focaccia because it seems like if it's doming in the center, I don't understand why it would dome in the center unless it's too elastic and pulling back. In which case, when you're panning it, right, I would give it a rest when you pan it. Like when you do Detroit pizza. And you don't want to deflate it too much, right? So you oil your pan, and then because I used to do Detroit pizza quite a lot with high extraction flour, and sometimes if it was a little too snappy, did you say how you did it? Hold on a second. I don't know. Did Catherine say how long it's doing 4-hour bulk overnight cold proof? So with that length of time on a lot of the high extraction flours that I use, the dough will get slack. So I'd be surprised that it snaps back that much, especially at that hydration. I'm suspecting that the doming is because of snapback, so that it's actually higher in the middle when it starts than it would be. And the way I get around that for Detroit is just a double pull. So you do your oil, you do your stretch, you lay it down, you cover it before you proof, and then you wait like 15, 20 minutes. The dough will relax again. Then after it relaxes, you can stretch it out the last bit of the way and get a really even kind of thing before you do your final proof. And it might be difficult because you say that you're doing a cold proof, right? So maybe if you shape it a little bit before your bulk, right? If you shape it a little bit before your bulk and just have, so if you do a pause between when you bulk it and you overdo your cold proof and just put an extra stretching step into it, maybe that'll work. Get back to me and tell me whether I'm on the right track or not. Gene W. writes in, my chicken shop recently closed. I'm so sorry that your chicken shop closed. There was a chicken shop down by me that closed that I really, really liked. I like a good, independent chicken shop, especially if they're doing like cool or interesting stuff. Kung Fu Chicken down by me closed, and I still miss it to this day. It was right next to the Chinatown bus, and they had anyway, whatever. Their squid game, their fried squid game at the chicken shop was, anyway. My chicken shop recently closed, and I still have a Henny Penny 30-liter pressure fryer. I would love to hear you all muse about what you would do with it besides fried chicken. Well, Well, Gene, I've never owned a pressure fryer. I've always wanted a pressure fryer. So why don't you tell us? Because I would do nothing but sit around all day being like, yep, nope, yep, right? So you wouldn't want to do, here's what you wouldn't want to do, right? You wouldn't want to, in my mind, you wouldn't want to pressurize a French fry because you're trying to get rid of water, right? So... But maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe the initial blanch out, you want to keep the temperature low and you want to really cook out the inside of the French fry before it dehydrates. You could do a pressurized low temperature cook step, then turn the heat up and blast out some of the water, then let it wilt. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of ramp profile. How much? I don't also know because I've never owned one, what pressure they get to. So what the quote-unquote maximum internal temperature of the thing is. But anything big that you wanted to deep fry would be awesome in it. Anything physically large so that you want to increase the temperature of the liquid inside the meat so that you can get faster cooking, I would think maybe a prime category. What do you think, Quinn? You got anything you would want to do?
I wonder if you could do some variant on like a carnitas.
But why do you need it to be with like a one step?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what pressure it gets
faster.
to. So if you were going to do, like and also you get a lot of moisture loss. So like when I'm doing those things, like in a second ring environment, I'm still looking at like 20 minutes, right? So you're looking at a 20-minute time at 259 Fahrenheit, right? Whatever that is, Celsius. So 20 to 25 minutes in that range, and then shred and fry to get the crispiness. I don't know. Because I don't think the stuff is getting that hot, is it? In a henny pan. In other words, like the oil is hot. For those of you, you have to, in your mind, what's awesome about a pressure fryer is you separate the temperature of the cooking medium, but in a regular a fryer that you're frying out in the air, not an air fryer, an oil fryer at atmospheric pressure, the liquid on the inside of the meat can never go above 212 degrees Fahrenheit, ever. Or, 100 Celsius. I mean, that's the rules because you don't have any pressure on it. You know what I'm saying? So, salt, whatever. Don't get nitpicky with me, especially you, Quinn. Don't get nitpicky with me. Anyway, but then when you pressurize
I
it.
said nothing.
I know. You're thinking it, though. When you pressurize it, right? Then all of a sudden the liquid on the inside of the meat can get to a higher temperature, right, than the regular boiling point. And things like collagen that you want to break down respond to that increase in temperature quite dramatically. So you can take things and break them down. You can cook through faster to the center, which is why they use it for chicken. But you can also just increase the rate at which you break things down like collagen. So there's got to be some sort of like fried pot roast that you could do. You know what I mean? I don't know, Gene. You tell me. Michael M. writes in, there's a cocktail at Schmuck, which is the relatively recently owned bar opened bar down here in New York, called Strawberries and Cheese. It reminds me a bit of your clarified and carbonated strawberry margarita. I'm 90% sure it's just clarified strawberry juice and tequila, milk punched with Parmesan powder and carbonated. Have you ever tried using cheese powders for clarification? No, I don't know that they would work because like they've already been clotted, right? So like I don't think that they'd be as good clarifying it. But things that you can do if it is first of all, the easiest way is to just use lactic acid. So you add any form of milk, like whey stuff, and just use lactic acid, and people are like, oh, it tastes like cheese. But another thing that you can do is make a Parmesan broth. So Wiley used to do this. A lot of people used to do this. You can buy the rinds cheap, or you can save the rinds if you use a grating cheese of Parmesano. You make a broth with it. The broth is clear. So then that can be used as an ingredient that has that cheese flavor. Then you jack it with lactic acid, and then it gets the sourness that you would want in a cocktail. Know what I mean?
Yep.
I wanted to do a cream cheese syrup, and Fabulous at the bar was like, well, we'll just add lactic acid. We'll do a regular cream syrup and just add lactic acid. I was like, come on, man. I want to make a cream cheese syrup because we were going to do, like, I don't do food, in general, I don't do food, food style drinks, but we're going to do a New York cheesecake. That'd be good, right?
Yeah.
A New York cheesecake drink would be good. The question is, how do you get the graham cracker flavor? Do you do an infusion, like a bran, like a bran and like cinnamon sugar infusion? What do you do? I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys tell me. Cooking issues.